Definitely hold you to that.
Cheers, Ali.
Thanks so much, Ali.
Bye-bye. Hi, I'm Ali Plum, Radio 1's film critic, and you are listening to the best-named radio show in the universe, Bangers and Mash.
Yeah, cheers, Ali.
Not anymore. Now you listen to the best show in the universe.
Hey, so, you know, a little known fact about me and Andrew, we were both raised on a beetroot farm. But one thing that connected us was the fact that our father said the same thing to us when he wanted us to harvest
and
the
what
crop.
was that, Beyonce?
Tweet the studio at Raw 12:51am. This is your Raw.
Yes, it is.
I'd put an explicit content warning on because it's about
You're
to get
listening
heavy.
to Raw 12:51 AM. The following programme may contain explicit content. If you feel you may be offended, please consider listening to some of our pre-recorded content instead. Online at radio.warwick.ac.uk.
Don't do that. Stay with us.
Yeah, we have
Jack Hadfield in the building. He's
controversial quipper, to say the least.
Yep, sitting over in the sofa there. He's going to come on in about 5 minutes.
Because we thought we needed this is the only time me and Andrew get to catch up.
Yeah.
So we thought we still need this 5 minutes.
5 minutes for ourselves.
Because we're going to go some deep, heavy political conversations where we need to catch up. Well, so, Drew, what's been going on?
Well, I had a fish that lived for 7 years.
Oh,
once.
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he was a really good fish.
7 years was that?
It was my first. Right, this is a goldfish, by the way.
Okay.
So one that's
not like
incredibly noteworthy. Yeah. No, we're not talking carp. We're not talking haddock.
Not even
all these
trout.
kids with their haddocks nowadays.
Yeah.
It's
Just
ridiculous.
Just get out.
Get yourself a goldfish, and you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bruce was my first fish.
That's not a very inventive name, you can admit.
It was in my shark phase.
Oh no!
So it was
the shark phase. You give it a little footnote.
Have we even done the shark phase?
No, we haven't.
Don't mention
that's
a whole
next
show.
episode. Please tune in.
No, he was my first fish. Along with Bruce and Spiky.
Yeah,
weird name, Spiky.
Well, because Spiky's out there and that's cool, but Bruce is just a little bit av.
Yeah, but he was
it Bruce because of Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
See. Original.
Yeah, so thank you. No, he survived 3 different tanks, 3 different houses.
Ooh.
He's a goldfish, 7 years. Many people don't believe that that's true. It is true. I've asked my dad several times.
So all of you out there,
it was saying Bruce didn't live for 7 years.
He lived for 7 years.
He was 7, and then he died. And he had a lovely burial in the garden.
Did you bury him?
Yeah.
Tears?
Maybe. It was a long time ago.
I remember when I came in, I used to name all of my close friends at school. That's who I used to name my fish after them.
That's really odd.
Really odd. And so I had a collection of fish. And one time, 3 of them died at once. Ooh. And when you find your fish dead and it's all just hanging, you know how they drift to the surface and it's so traumatic. I was 7 years old and I come running down the stairs. Lucas is dead!
Lucas
is dead! And so is Joe.
And
They're
Joe.
gone. And then my mum's just obviously
thinking that your school friends are dead.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, thank God, they're in trouble.
Hey, I didn't like them having a dinner.
Yeah, my mum had a twisted sense of humour. Twisted.
Very true. Hold on, let's just... Yeah, so message in.
Oh, yeah.
Message in any questions you want to ask Mr. Hadfield or any views you want to put across. We're ready to mediate between the discussion.
I mean, because there's been a couple of people saying that views as controversial and, frankly, to some people as offensive as Jack Hadfield's, we shouldn't give them a platform. And, we're here to kind of say that this is more of a way of trying to understand these views. And
it's important to have debate and look at the other side of it, and I think it's interesting to
create
have
a dialogue.
Exactly. So yeah, anything you want to message in, please do. We've had a few messages in already for a few potential questions that we'll bring on.
Let's
get Mr. Hadfield on. You ready?
Jack, take a seat here.
Come on, my friend. Right, which one are you going for? That one. Beautiful. Right, we're up. We're live.
Working?
Yeah, we're on.
Great.
We're on and ready to go.
I think to start off with, I need to ask, do you actually believe the stuff you say, or are you written by left-wing satirists?
No,
because I mean, it does seem sometimes I'm waiting for the creators of South Park to come out and say we were behind him the whole time. Because some of the stuff you say is wow.
No, yeah, I pretty much believe most things I say. Sometimes I will just say things ironically and not actually mean them. But yeah,
Okay.
You can totally tell when I'm when I'm making
let
a
us
joke
know
about things. But
when
When you're being ironic.
when you're being
Yeah.
ironic.
Because we need to make sure.
Because I haven't been. Because I hope a lot of this stuff is ironic. I hope. Where should we kick off with the oeuvre of your beliefs, Jack?
Do you want to start with consent classes?
Yeah, let's do consent classes. Brilliant.
Could you quickly put forward your view on consent classes then?
Non-ironically.
Yeah.
non-ironically, I'm not really a fan of the consent classes that I think were put in by the university. Because I have a worry that due to sort of the left-wing skew of the students' unions,
Yeah, that's
that you would end up with sort of facts that wouldn't work, that weren't exactly true and work. It's like
Did you ever go to one of these classes?
No, I did not.
So would
that's
you
how
be
I
aware
feel.
of the inner workings of them without having gone to any of them?
Well, I mean, I did look at the literature they provided, and I think it's just I'm certainly not in favour of helping to promote consent, because I do think that is.
Good.
Yeah, I'm certainly.
I'm glad we're on the
consent.
same page with that.
No, I'm certainly in favour of consent, but it's like it's sort of. I think sex is not a black and white issue. It's like if two people are getting really drunk together and both of them are too out of it to handle themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, did one person rape the other, or how's it?
Well, I
if
think-
both of them would.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there with sex isn't a black and white issue,
Yeah.
which is why these consent classes are so
Exactly.
important, because you're able to, because as being white men here, we aren't able to understand any of the psyche of a female, especially when it comes to sexual relations. It's very complex and kind of difficult matters in terms of consent. So I don't understand why you kind of have such a anger against these consent classes when all they're doing is trying to give you another perspective and understand, and then able to make a more informed decision when you get into those situations.
Well, it's more like I was worried about where the source it was coming from, the students' union, because I think the students' union has an inherent left-wing bias. Well, it's kind of like sort of, if you understand, let's say, would you be comfortable, for example, with a Trump administration telling people exactly what immigration was and why it was awful and exactly the facts about it without hearing from anyone else?
Because the Trump administration isn't run by immigrants.
Oh yeah, no.
The consent class would be run by a woman who has a better perspective on it and who could educate me in order to make the right decisions.
It's sort
And
of,
they're not exactly calling you, when you say you're being labelled a rapist, I think you can admit you're not being labelled a rapist, are you, Jack?
No, I certainly not by. I don't think the people necessarily run the consent classes, but
have you ever been accused of being a rapist?
No.
So why did you say you've been labelled a rapist?
Well, no, it's I was in the article. It was more linking it to the wider views, sort of within the left-wing sphere, especially feminism, who think that. I mean, you'll find a lot of people. I think it was a lot of people like Andrea Dworkin and other. The sort of sex-negative feminists who would say that who would label all male and female sex as rape, and that all and that all
wait, hold on. I don't know these
are
negative.
rapists.
So this is a negative feminist. What's her name?
A sex negative. No, I was talking about. Let's give another example. If you know,
so a sex negative feminist who believes that all sex is rape.
Well, yeah, this is the political lesbianism. This is
so
political.
So like a negative feminist who's a political lesbian who believes
I don't think she was a political lesbian, but I think
all sex is rape.
There are certainly I've certainly read some articles and some studies from people who have honestly believed that all sex is rape.
All sex
between a man and a woman.
But these consent classes.
Obviously, no. That's different. That is different to the consent classes. But if it's run by it's run by people who are sympathetic to feminist ideals, I think that it's.
Why are you suggesting that the people who run the consent classes
skewed.
think that all sex is rape?
No.
So this is a bit
Not at all.
It's a bit irrelevant. Let's stay on the consent issue here.
Yeah.
So you described it in. I've got the tab article up from a quote from you saying that These consent classes are essentially kind of demonizing men and hampering normal, healthy male sexuality by pretending that all men are latent rapists who would take advantage of women.
Yeah.
So could you explain that a bit more?
Healthy? What do you mean?
No,
Surely the consent class is going against, is literally attacking unhealthy attitudes to sex.
Well, it depends on what you view between healthy and unhealthy attitudes. I think, here's something definitely where I can be clear on the consent, where they have the positive consent.
Oh, yeah.
In which you have to say, I think there's been definitely a few videos
when you say yes.
Where, yes, I think...
As opposed to no.
No, not as opposed to no.
Okay.
Positive consent, saying yes, as in, instead of enthusiastically, like, going along with it, where you can infer a yes. So rather than
so
asking
like a
your
drunken
partner...
slur, yes.
No, well, not a drunken... Well, it's more that to ask someone sort of yes every single time you go on to do something, rather than sort of wait for someone to either say no or refuse it. Because sex is a grey issue, I think you can infer consent. You can infer non-verbal consent. I think that's where it comes from.
Because I'm learning stuff as well. These are some good sex tips.
So
we got it.
But I think it's sort of...
It's not about them saying yes, it's about waiting until they say no.
Not waiting until they say no, but you can sort of read... I think you can read
the
people's
room.
Body language.
Read the room.
Read
the room.
Yeah, basically. And I don't think you need someone to say something to be able to infer where that person is. So, example, if they're not saying no as well...
So you're upset with this kind of growing...
Because it's making
I guess campus
rigidity.
culture, you describe it as being a pro-consent, that they're trying to put too much emphasis on yes as saying yes. And there's many other ways to say yes to sex.
So, for example...
But I don't think that's not what they're not saying say yes. They're trying to change the attitudes because there have been incidents. For example, the Brooke Turner incident.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not saying that you don't think that's awful, but I'm saying that I think that the attitudes have been changing for the better consistently throughout history because people are understanding women's rights far more, and there's becoming more equality. And this is just moving us further along because it's maybe because I've seen some like Marley Yiannopoulos, who I know saying that maybe the results are skewed, and even if they were, surely this is still working for the good because it's trying to move us to a place where this happens less.
Yeah, I think obviously...
I don't know how it's damaging.
No, because
I don't feel accused as a rapist because I don't rape people.
Yeah, exactly. I think generally, like, they have the right mindset, and I think the people who are putting the consent classes forward are doing it in a positive...
You're accepting that it's good
They're trying to do good.
Okay.
Certainly. And I think generally they do, but there are the few issues, like the yes means yes thing, which can lead to... I believe there's a law in California where... because of the yes means yes, that the affirmative consent, I think especially in campuses, and it's maybe in the general legal system, if somebody is accused of rape, they have to prove that they obtained consent, which is guilty until proven innocent, which is the entire flip of the legal system, which is innocent until proven guilty. And I think I would rather stop it at the consent classes before it moves into what we can see in California and, for example, in the liberal states of America. And I think making it too black and white, as in you have to say yes, no, obtain consent.
But they're not. Are they saying that? Are they saying that?
Yes.
Are people getting arrested?
Yes.
So people are getting arrested because they've attempted to have sex with someone, and the person said, "I was into it, but I didn't say yes." Or
you can say that after. You can say.
So they're tricking these men into sex.
No. Example: if it's not about the actual premise, it's about if somebody then is accused of rape, they have to prove that they did obtain consent.
Okay.
So then it leads into, with voice recording or like a legal document or something. The fact is, we're stopping it at the yes means yes law instead of saying, for example, which also means that someone doesn't have to say no to mean no. Because if your partner is not necessarily saying no, they're all looking a bit tensed up and not uncomfortable.
So this is about read in the room again.
Because it's emphasising clear black and white. Yes means yes and no means no.
So you're in...
Yes doesn't necessarily mean yes. Also, if someone says yes,
So
that's
Jack's
in terms
top
of consent, but not
sex
seen
tips.
it.
Read the room.
Well, no, with that is that these
I don't want to stay
consent-
too long on this.
No,
we have a lot to get
quickly,
through,
yeah,
and we
that's
have
fine.
no women
a
on
quick
the
wrap
show
up.
either.
So the one, Micah was just informing the Warwick consent classes didn't actually run the whole yes means yes campaign, and they're all about understanding how important communication is. So you don't just think that an inference you take from a female is enough to then justify you having sex with her. I think that's what you might be misunderstanding the point of these classes, in that it's a mutual process that you go through to understand how to better communicate. So then we just avoid these issues overall.
Yeah, maybe I got it wrong on the Warwick lons, but I have seen previous consent classes.
Okay.
Gone.
All right. As much as I'd love to stay on this, I
Yeah.
think we have to move on. There's so much to get through.
There is.
That was only the first hurdle. What's up next? Fat shaming. Now, this is an interesting one because when we first met and organised this meeting, which is when you were very drunk, and we actually met at our mutual friend's house party. I think I got questioning it, and it was your views on bullying fascinate me. Because you as someone who you said yourself had been bullied when he was younger.
A lot, yeah, pretty hard.
But are pro-bullying.
Let's try and get behind that.
Wait 1 second before we go into it. Here's a picture of two women who I think are talking about body shaming, and you said, far be it for me to revisit tired cliches about the typical BMI, body mass index, of angry campus feminists, but observers will make up their own minds about why Miss Zaman is so cross all the time. She's the one on the right, obviously. Not to body shame. There's a quotation mark.
In quotations.
Yeah.
That must be the famous irony.
But there's quite a difference between this and Zaman's close crop profile picture. I mean, if this were Tinder and she showed up in the bar, you'd ask for your money back, wouldn't you? Rhetorical. Zaman is all about, another air quote, body positivity, according to other York students, despite apparently being ashamed of her own. What did you mean by that?
Well, I'll say on that article, I worked with a couple other people
a couple of the boys, just the lads,
to sort of work
some locker room
together.
chat. I love it.
And I think with that, that was a tongue-in-cheek comment, but behind it, it was almost a more serious message, in that I didn't feel guilty, taking the mick out of her because of the actions that she had done.
So you're punishing
at York
her.
University.
Well,
what
was her actions that deserved to be fat shit?
Well, if you look at the previous article, which was related to that, I think it might even be further down there, where she cancelled a celebration of International Men's Day, which raised issues related to men and masculinity. So that, the day after, a York male student had unfortunately committed suicide.
Yeah,
and she pressured the university, along with other people, to drop this and actually say that men's issues aren't important. The day a guy had actually committed suicide on his campus.
It's interesting that you're bringing up suicide though, because I'd say, I don't actually have the stats on this, so please correct me wrong, but would you say that bullying is a huge cause of suicide? So saying that bullying is a force for good and then using someone's suicide to back up your own point as this sad thing.
Well, I don't think it was that.
When you're supporting bullying, which is one of the main reasons. I do not know why there's still a chance that the man who committed suicide was because of bullying. So I don't really get what point you're trying to bring up.
When it's sort of, let me clarify, I don't necessarily think that all bullying is good. I think that
just tasteful.
Which kinds of bullying are good?
Well, it's more it's more sort of peer pressure. I think it was because that I was as I said myself, I was bullied quite at school. Well, because I was weird and I didn't fit in, and my sort of my actions sort of ostracized me from the rest of the class, and I was a teacher's pet and all that. But because I was bullied, it made me change my personality, and it made me fit
vote
better.
Trump.
No, I'm not saying vote Trump, but it made me fit better into the social sphere and actually sort of align more with my peers. Sure, it's actually it was horrible during the course of it, and
I can't even imagine. It must have been awful.
My self-esteem was really low when I was younger. But over the course of it, I think that if I wasn't bullied, I would still be annoying, weird, not be able to make friends.
Okay.
Because it's basically it's a hardened form of peer pressure. So I think when it's sort of personality traits of people that need to be melded more into the social norms.
What kind of traits? Like what needs to be changed
if you're,
in someone?
I don't know. Well, so like me, I was really annoying and just kept deliberately annoying people.
So
and
anyone
really
that's annoying as a child has the right to be bullied to then stop them being annoying
not
to then
necessarily
fit into a social sphere.
The right to be bullied, but it said it's a higher form of peer pressure, and it makes people realise sort of
more
what
enlightened
social norms
form.
are.
So it makes people conform.
More enlightened. Yeah, most people then conform and become better people because of it. Obviously, for some people,
so
it is horrible.
It's about conforming to like a general social thing. So more people are similar, and it's more people can get along because it's more kind of like
basically.
So it's more. And okay, I mean that's generally seemingly a fairly far right position, which is trying to keep society with fairly gendered. So if you're a man, stay a man. If you're a woman,
more
stay
sort
a
of
woman.
like Burkean sort of things that society is an organism and sort of they all work together and sort of make society better.
So you're saying about you being personally annoying and stuff, but then you do tweets like Clinton. This is about the debate.
Yeah.
Clinton couldn't actually find anything nice to say about Trump. God, what an effing bitch.
Yeah.
Hashtag debate.
Because that quite annoyed me.
Do you think maybe you were peer pressured in the wrong way?
Well, no, it's not necessarily
some of this language seems pretty. This is the kind of stuff that you should have probably been dropping.
Well, no, I think that was that was me getting annoyed at Clinton for the debate, where Trump actually then brought up. He said, Secretary Clinton, I think that she was pushing herself well, like a strong woman, like some phrases, and that she's had a great campaign. And then when Clinton had something nice to say about Trump, she said, "Oh, he's got great kids." And it's like, right, but you're not actually doing him the he was actually then respectful to her, and then
I think in the whole election, Hillary was more respectful to Trump than Trump was to Hillary.
But when he was asked,
when Trump was accused of
nice to say about her,
sexual abuse, he started accusing Bill Clinton as the worst sexual abuser in the history.
Well, I mean, he was thrown out of Oxford for rape allegations. Bill Clinton was.
Yeah, but that was just a way to have. Okay, well, I'm not going to say defend Bill Clinton. I do not know enough about that. But he was using that as a way to divert the fact that he had his own sexual abuse claims. And I mean, just like this kind of idea that it's like, oh, why is it Clinton being decent to Trump? Trump was one of the least decent president I've ever seen in any election ever to another person.
Like certainly.
So what? Clinton just said his kids are nice. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. What were we?
I mean, what else was she going to say?
Well, no, that brings
I like
up an
your fake tan.
It brings up an interesting point because
at least it would have been a compliment
for me. Even if you're really, you love Trump's economic policies, whatever, all that. How can you honestly look at him and hear about what he believes about minorities? We're going to talk about the Muslim ban now, and just his whole idea about society. How can you kind of be okay with him doing that? Do you not think it's extremely regressive?
No, well, I mean, in terms of minorities, I think he's actually been he's basically a New York liberal in terms of that. I mean, he's the first president to come into office in favour of gay marriage.
Yep.
No other guys did, and in fact.
But do you think he would have been if it hadn't already been passed?
Yeah. No, he was actually already he was pro-gay and pro-gay marriage.
No, this is the thing about Trump
for quite a long time.
But and this is why I actually don't think Trump's a fascist, because fascists are people with serious ideologies. I don't think Trump has an ideology. He looks for power and he tries to find what his crowd want. So I can almost guarantee that he would not have been in favour of gay marriage because it would have not helped him in the election.
Well, I don't think
I think he believes that gay marriage is right. I think he believes a lot of things that are very liberal. He used to be considered a liberal, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was some other stuff again in terms of minorities. He has the Mar-a-Lago club golf club in Florida. It used to be. It was owned by somebody else, and at that point, it didn't let African Americans or Jewish people into the club. And Trump said, actually, hang on, guys, that's not cool. Would you mind just letting them in? Because that's kind of it's not very nice and respectful. And these guys were like, no, sorry, we're going to keep it as is. So what did Trump do? He bought them out and then let everyone come in.
It's a shame he's not carrying that over into his presidential policy.
No, I didn't know that about Trump. I'm starting to like this
guy. Isn't he? Well, let's talk about letting people in and out. So what?
No, the golf club, I think, said this Muslim ban was bad. But now I know that he knows
the golf club.
So it's all right for Muslims to play golf at his golf club, but not to come into the country.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Okay, well, again, on the Muslim ban, it wasn't actually a Muslim ban. It was a temporary visa stop of 7 countries, which had already been picked out by the Obama administration as having severe security threats.
Okay, we've just been sent in an article by one of our friends who it's by The Independent entitled Donald Trump asked Rudy Giuliani how to legally create Muslim ban, claims former New York mayor. So the article is just basically saying how he went to Rudy Giuliani in order to try and get a legal framework in order to ban all Muslims.
Right, is this from Rudy Giuliani himself?
Yes.
So what exactly does the article say? Let me just clarify that.
Well, what would you like me to read out?
Or do you want to just link it?
I could send it over. I'll just read. I'll just read the first bit.
Just
Rudy Giuliani, the former New York mayor, has said President Trump wanted a Muslim ban and instructed him to put together a commission to show him the right way to do it legally.
Okay, but what did he actually say?
Quotes there are Muslim ban and instructed him to put and then the right way to do it legally.
Right. Okay. I haven't heard that before.
I mean, that is fair.
But
bringing up an article that someone hasn't read, I know it's understandable.
But I mean, again, I think sort of with the Muslim ban, he's sort of, what it means by, I think when he was in the campaign, he said that he would put a temporary halt. He would put a temporary halt on all Islamic immigration until he could figure out what's going on and stuff.
What is going on?
I think because I personally myself, I'm not in favour of Islam. I think it's quite a violent religion, and it's more akin to a political ideology than anything else. It's like communists were banned from entering the US during the Cold War because they were seen as the greatest threat.
So would you say Islamic jihadi terrorism?
Yeah, but
would you say Islamic jihadi terrorism was the biggest threat to America then, in terms of death and destruction?
Well, in terms of it's more the society. I believe that it's 25% of young Muslim Britons, which is age 18 to 25, I think said that killing people was justified if it sort of led to more
Well, I think I read it in the Daily Mail. Did they?
No, that was Pew Research.
Okay.
Pew Research are quite independent guys, and it's also was it 9? Something like 80-90%.
You do agree that these kind of
stats homosexuality is illegal.
You know that these kind of stats have a very poor history of being correct.
Well,
I don't know these stats well enough to properly
if you look at Pew
deny
Research,
them. But I mean, saying 25% of all Muslims in Britain,
age 18 to 25,
believe. Okay. Well, if you are Muslim, I believe that killing is justified. Please message in.
We'd love to hear.
Yeah, we could create our own poll.
So would you say the Muslim ban, we'll call it the Muslim ban for now, is justified in order to prevent an outbreak of Islamic terrorism in America?
I think it's not just about Islamic terrorism because there are lots of.
It's more the ideology of it.
It's more the ideology.
Okay.
I think primarily yes, to stop Islamic terrorism because as we can see with where have the most recent terrorist attacks come from? Europe, because there's been with the refugee crisis, jihadis have been able to smuggle themselves in, into Europe, posing as actual refugees. I think, and then Trump's sort of seen that and
they
said,
take off their refugee costume and they're a terrorist.
Trump's seen that and said there's too much of it because these countries don't have stable governments. You can't really verify who's who and who is a terrorist and who is not. Because the San Bernardino shooters, were allowed in and into the US, and of course, they had no clue. That they would turn out to massacre, I think, 7 people. I think in Sabbath, so would you 14? I'm not
would
sure.
you advocate the same thing for American lawnmowers? Because I've got some statistics here, and it's about the number of Americans killed annually by various things, and this is in the year I think it was in the year 2013 here.
Yeah,
and we've got Islamic jihadi immigrants. Two Americans were killed by that. Far right-wing terrorists, 5 were killed. Armed toddlers, 21. Lightning, 31. Lawnmowers, 69. Being hit by a bus, 264. Falling out of bed, 737. And being shot by another American, 11,737.
Yeah.
You know what would be awful? Would be an Islamic terrorist armed toddler with a lawnmower. I think that is the ultimate
killing machine. Yeah.
And
so, are you in favour of gun control? Obviously, because you're worried about protecting American lives.
I'm not actually in favour of gun control. I'm in favour of laxer gun laws in that where there are guns, which states which tend to have greater gun control tend to have higher rates of gun violence because people cannot defend themselves as well. I think it's Chicago has one of the toughest gun control.
But the defend
things
yourself
in its
argument, so
country.
about having guns so you could just shoot back.
Well, it's also, I think that,
But it will become like a Hollywood Western.
Well, no,
Surely you take away the guns. It's not about Call of Duty who could shoot better.
Well, the fact is, you can't actually, take away guns and still work it out. I mean, Australia had a gun ban in 1997, a mandatory gun buyback program. So what happened was, obviously, all the law-abiding citizens gave their guns in, but who didn't give their guns in? Criminals. And in fact, gun violence, according to whichever stats, it either has increased or it's stayed the same. It certainly hasn't dropped. And overall violent crime has increased.
Deaths by guns, massacres have almost. I don't think there hasn't been a massacre in Australia. I don't know the facts on this. I'm going to have to check properly. But I think the general consensus is that the Australian gun ban, that's always upheld as a very successful thing. I mean, it was after an incredibly horrific massacre. And I don't know if this is true, but I'm pretty sure no massacres happened since. Well, please message in if I'm wrong.
Obviously, it's not because it's not. Actually, if you look to the US, the amount of since about 1973, around 700 or so people have been killed in mass shootings.
Yeah.
And then compared to defensive gun usage, DGU, depending on whose stats you look at, between this has ranged from the FBI and a few other groups. I think the FBI put it as 50,000 people per year have had their lives saved from defensive gun usage. I mean, some people put it even as high as 1 million, which I doubt. But even take the lowest figure.
What, defensive guns against other guns?
Not necessarily. Yes, of course, against other guns or home invaders or other people. The fact is, people always find a way to get guns or weapons or anything. If you look at
including toddlers who have been killing their parents.
Well, I think that was where where people don't properly lock up the guns and don't teach.
There's the Jim Jeffries, a comedian defence, just saying that the contradiction is if you lock up your gun properly, it's not great defence when someone breaks into your house because you're going to have to go.
You can still lock it up. There are systems which allow sort of a proper close, but then a quick open from an adult, not a baby who can just.
I mean, gun control is not one of your biggest things, is it? And I think we can agree to disagree on this, and I don't want to get too bogged down in this. An actual question that this is less about politics and more. I'm just fascinated.
Yeah.
Someone with the beliefs of you supports Trump, who's for Brexit. It must be like, what music and films do you watch? Like, it must the music and film industry and the general media industry and the general academic industry is so filled with people who disagree with you and despise your views. How do you get about who are your guys? Do you listen to certain country? I don't know what.
No,
what do you guys?
I listen to who's good? Tame Impala, Halsey.
Tame Impala support Trump.
No.
Oh, you mean these are
these are people listen to, and
Tame
Halsey
Impala, great band.
Yeah, they are really good. The less I know, the better. Absolute top tune. Halsey is also really good. Who else do I listen to? Lord. Sort of the big back to all the.
No, but I mean, so you listen to these people, but how do you feel?
Everything.
Is it frustrating having all of these people you listen to, nearly all the films I assume you watch, made by people who disagree so vehemently with you?
No, it doesn't really affect me actually, because I can sort of appreciate a film or a piece of music for whatever it is.
It's just something I've really been interested in.
Separate that, yeah. I mean, Christ, if I lock myself in from listening to any media that doesn't agree with me, then I'd be
that's not what I was saying. I was more saying that it seems that the most popular music and films does seem to be all made by people on the left of the spectrum. So that was more just an interest to me. But Andrew,
well, can we get back to? So you believe that the Muslim ban should stand because you want to stop the ideology spreading? Is that? So what would you say to the recent attacks in Canada that was committed by an alt-right ideology? Would you not agree that that is, again, an ideology, not a religion, so we should ban all alt-right people because it has the potential to incite violence?
Well, I think you've got to look at in terms of actual overall danger. I think, in fact, if the and again, linking this back to guns, I think that if there had been people being armed in Canada, I think that guy would have been able to have been shot at the scene and stopped from taking more lives. It was certainly a completely horrific act by clearly a guy who was not in his right mind, thinking that killing people is the best way of doing anything.
But he doesn't. He doesn't represent.
He doesn't represent the alt-right, though, does he?
Well, it's sort of I haven't really heard about this guy other than that he was a white guy. I've heard
that it was definitely a Trump supporter.
Yeah,
and I think it was part. Once again, I don't want to be spewing out any more fake news than already has been, but I believe he's part of the alt-right. If you found out he was part of the alt-right, would you say that he doesn't represent the movement?
I would say that.
I think you know where my logic's headed.
Yeah, I do. But it's
the
where
hypocrisy now it's flipped on its head.
I disagree because there's nothing in the alt-right or the alternative right or anyone sort of there that really calls for violence. If you look, but I think
you should check out the Reddit page
in the Quran. You've got people who say, "Are the Donalds not even really alt-right? It's just kind of Trump supporters." And in fact, if you've got in Quran, you've got behead the unbelievers wherever you shall find them. It's a very violent, dominating ideology.
The same as the Bible. Same as the Bible, yeah.
Well, not the same as the Bible. The Bible doesn't say kill people who disagree with you. It says
stone people.
I'm pretty sure
it does. If you
look at
I haven't read it. I haven't read it recently, and I don't know if there's been like an update.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's like they're going to. There's a bit about killing. I swear, they just kill people who don't.
Well, no. If you look at the New Testament compared to the Old Testament, because if you're following the because the rules that are supposed to be followed in the Old Testament are basically neutralized when Jesus comes into being. Generally, because that was a structure for when people still had original sin and had to follow to this. So really, you should be following most of what Jesus says in the New Testament, and he's like, love thy neighbor, have the Good Samaritan, which is like people who are different to you.
I love that one.
Doesn't mean they're awful people just because they're because they're different.
Yeah. Are you?
How much have you read the Quran?
Are you religious?
Generally, yeah. I mean, I try to be, but I mean, I was raised in a semi-ish secular household, so it's hard to sort of get into it.
And Christian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, generally.
I was waiting for a curveball and saying he was Muslim.
That'll definitely be an exclusive on the show today, yeah.
Okay, well, no, how much have you actually read the Quran, just out of interest with all that?
Well, I've certainly certainly read some of the relevant passages.
Because it sounds like you're picking and choosing a bit between choosing particular passages within Christianity and Islam that reflects the argument that you want to put across. Really, I think if you're gonna generalize between the two, you have to accept that they both advocate some sort of violence in every way, and they are kind of put forward as in a metaphorical sense. But are you suggesting that the only issue within terrorism is Islam? Because you are militantly focusing on it when I've just read out the statistics that it's quite practically a minor killer of people in America.
Well, that was
more people have died,
but it's been
died from far-right terrorism since 9/11. Islamic terrorism
since
in the US.
Yeah. How would you define as far-right terrorism?
I'd say
that's sort of where we.
Okay, that's fair. That's quite a loose point. I'd say
I think Dylan Roof you could probably describe as a far-right terrorist, and probably this guy in Canada as well. But in terms of actual recent terrorist attacks, I can't think of anyone else over the past few years
Joe Cox's
who's actually
murder?
being no, it's not in the US.
In the US,
in the US.
Apologies.
Yeah, I think again in the UK that was a complete travesty as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of numbers and generally what the significant figures on the right. So you've got what was his name? The big guy.
Hodor from Game of Thrones.
No. The Muslim preacher, big beard, speaks with a relatively posh-ish
Brian Blessed.
London accent.
No, I'm so bad at this game.
Can't remember which name, but he's like, Sharia
yeah,
law
no,
will
the
take,
one. Yeah.
will take over this country,
that one.
and your children will submit to Islam. The big actual, like Muslim preachers are
Would you describe him as
saying
the big Muslim preacher? I think a lot of Muslims would disagree with him in this country.
He had quite, he had.
I think I know exactly who you're talking of. It's like, the British government couldn't find.
That might be the other guy, Abu Hamza.
Abu Hamza.
No, maybe it is Abu.
Abu Hamza.
Abu Hamza. Yeah.
Well done, team.
Yeah,
we got
probably
it.
that one.
We got it.
Good work.
That's going to be a weekly feature on the show. Guess the Muslim cleric.
A few more far-right shootings have come in. The Colorado shooting, as well as the Charleston church shooting. So these are just kind of more.
Oh yeah, Charleston was Dylan Roof, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the Dylan Roof one. To be fair.
And the Colorado shooting was. Which is the Colorado shooting?
Wait, is that talking about the gay nightclub, Colorado? No, was that in Colorado?
No, Orlando was an
Orlando.
Islamic terrorist shooting that killed about 50 people.
Yeah. I think we are getting a tiny bit bogged down in the
detail.
We do have a lot to go on, but this is a very eye-opening, certainly.
Right. Can we talk about transgender issues?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about time.
What are your thoughts on transgender issues?
This is kind of one where I'm a bit split. I mean, I know people who are transgender. It's sort of like, I think that. I'm not entirely a fan of the word gender, because I think it mixes it up, and I prefer, it's like sex, or like transsexual was a previous term used for gender.
So are you suggesting that
one.
it's a binary and you're born into either one or the other?
Yes, I certainly think that sex is a binary.
So what? Okay, so what do you think gender is then?
I think gender was made up by this scientist really first theorized the concept of gender as being different, and this guy who experimented on
in a
kids.
lab and made up the word gender.
Well, no, he experimented on kids and used it to try and push the idea that sort of transgender was a real thing, because gender was not a binary. I think he had he had a little boy who had his penis removed at birth because there was some defect, or think that circumcision went wrong or something, and then he basically experimented and made him live his formative years as a girl, and then he found out later in his teens that he was actually born a man.
Yeah,
he sort of knew that it was wrong, and then he ended up killing himself. And this professor was the guy who basically almost tortured this poor kid. He was the guy that theorized of the terms of gender. I think of masculine and feminine. Now, I think. I use the term gender, but sort of masculine, feminine. I think people can be, have more masculine or more feminine features. I think that's
social ideas of what masculine.
But I think that's separate to biological sex and those things, because girls.
Fine. If we're going to go
tomboys,
if we're going to go
be more masculine.
If we're going to go logically,
it's different to them wanting to be a guy.
If you're born with the biological organs of a man, in the idea, if you look at Stone Cold Fats, if someone they are biologically men.
Yeah.
But I think the argument is kind of that's kind of irrelevant. We don't have to care about that.
See, that's where it's splitting between sort of the
and what they use
trans nature and
sex. It's a way of just trying to.
No, I think it's a difference between people who act more masculine or more feminine and people who actually want to change their biological sex. Was it gender dysphoria / sex dysphoria? Is, I believe, the actual medical term for it. And these are people who have been either, let's say, born with the wrong brains. Now, I believe the science is not actually out on there, and if it turns out that you can be sort of let's say there's a hormone malfunction sort of during pregnancy, so it leads to sort of the brain developing more female or male in the wrong body, then I would certainly support.
Wait, do you think they're just making a fuss over nothing?
No. I don't think they're making a fuss over nothing.
Why do you need to wait for the science to come out? Why can't you just take them on their
because
word?
I think it's because I think it's a medical condition that that leads to making people think that they're born in the wrong body.
Wait, do you think so? It's like a societal pressure that makes me want to become trans.
No. It's certainly it's certainly a medical condition. There's no societal pressure.
So, but why are you waiting for you said you were waiting for the science to come out to prove whether you'd be in favour of it or not?
No, because right now I think it seems more akin to a medical problem.
That could be solved.
Yeah, it's because.
So do you think people
clearly
are
if you've been
born?
on in the wrong body, well then something's not gone right.
Well, this is following this
biologically.
kind of Marianopoulos logic.
Yeah,
who I know you're a big fan
I think I would
is
tend to
gay,
agree with Milo there.
but
yeah.
would say if there was a treatment that could stop him being gay, he would take it.
Well, I
even though
think
he
that's
claims
more-
not to be a self-hating gay.
No, I think that's more where he thinks that because he's professed that he wants to have kids and wants to be a dad fully and have biological kids and raise them, and so being a gay man, he can't have the
It's
wifey
starting to
standard
sound
family.
a little bit like
is what he was
racial and sexual purification. It's starting to sound like this.
racial and sexual purification.
Well, it sounds like the idea of purification. I mean, the sense of if we could find genetics to make people, open quotation marks, weird and annoying, the kind of people you'd want to bully out of this.
No, I don't think. Again, that's.
Then
I don't
let's
think
bring them
that's,
to a more
that's
binary
genetic.
thing. I just think it's an incredibly dangerous road.
No,
saying that if you can, once again, quotation marks, cure someone of being of sex dysphoria or being gay, then we should.
See, this is where I'm sort of more. I think that you can't really be cured of your sexuality.
I wouldn't say it's something to be cured either.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not a thing to be cured. I mean, because we've seen it in other animals. Displays of homosexuality. In complete other animals. Actually, it's in fact male bats who have the highest homosexuality rate of any animal.
I think dolphins
compared to dolphins.
Blowholes.
And it's also there may be the idea that being gay is something that evolution's made so that let's say a male and a female animal have a kid, but then they die. Then I think possibly that a gay couple who then can't biologically have any kids can then adopt them. Perhaps that's how. But that's a theory. That's why homosexuality was evolved through society.
I'm for all these ideas. I don't believe it's. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, but I don't think it's necessary at all to understanding it. I think now we're coming to the end. Do you have anything to say, Andrew?
No, not really. I think we've. Have we got through everything?
I think it's more just a closing statement of You've seen the world. You've seen the reaction. You must have. My whole newsfeed is saturated with what's happening with Trump.
Yeah.
And we try and do comedy and try and keep things light, and that's everything I want to go through. But it's so. I don't like to talk about it too much because people talk about it so much and it's so easy to become cliche. But it is. I'm gonna be honest. It's deeply saddening. Some of these beliefs. That even someone who, like you, who seems very polite and very intelligent, does believe these things that are so regressive. I mean, I honestly think in the way that, and I'm using a broader term here, in the way that now it's kind of generally accepted in mainstream society that homosexuality is not a sin. But it took progressives against conservatives to fight for that before it became accepted. So you kind of have to, I think you have to look at these issues with how they're going to look back on in 100 years. And I honestly believe in 100 years' time, even people on the right will say that was they'll be embarrassed about what's going on here. They're embarrassed about the hysteria, about the acceptance of fake news, about the ban on Islam. Well, that was not the ban on Islam. The ban, obviously, the immigration ban on 7 countries from Muslim majorities. And I guess that wasn't really a question, that's just more me voicing it because I don't really want to do it very often, but I don't really know where the world's headed now. I mean, it's very sad.
Well, yeah, I think it's just as Michael's who used to be on the show, as messaging, suggesting that you perhaps look towards the compassionate part of politics rather than the one that puts people in boxes and hurts them if you've struggled from issues like bullying in your childhood and things, because it's surely the way to advance and go forward in the world right now is to accept that we're all just humans and we're all trying to do the same thing and make it better for everyone, and just categorizing people and kind of perpetuating this idea of difference is just, I don't think it's ever going to help a society or a global society in any kind of manner.
Can I just pop in that?
Yeah,
I think,
sure.
I think that people are different and everyone's different, but that doesn't mean that just because everyone's different doesn't mean everyone's not a human or anything else.
No, but it's forcing difference and finding difference where there shouldn't be any, or finding arbitrary difference or things that completely aren't relevant or don't have any kind of practical implications. It's just prejudice at the end of the day.
Well, to say that I think that anyone who, for any difference whatsoever, anyone who hates someone just because they are different and doesn't get to know the person first is a complete moron. Because I have friends from all religions, all across the political spectrum, and and they're friends with me, not almost despite my despite my views, because they look past that and see that I'm actually a relatively
surely
nice
we should take that kind of idea about the more private and friendship realm and take it into political realm and suggest that because you are friends with people across the spectrum, political ideas and religions, so why can't you then transfer that into your political beliefs?
And doesn't it worry that the people who you support, because I think of people on the right speaking to you, you do seem to be someone who does understand certain nuances. But the people who you put your views up against, for example, Trump, and often Yiannopoulos, who seems to be the most eloquent speaker on the right at the moment, which is a fairly easy feat in my opinion. But surely putting yourself with that group, it's so damaging.
Well, I think that, I have no problem because they always criticise really the ideas behind it. And you can have ideas and debates with your friends, but it's all about, at the day, we are all individuals, and, you can say that somebody is wrong, but that doesn't mean, you can't be friends with them. I think it was, Antonin Scalia was great friends with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, two completely opposing judges, who fought and had arguments on the Supreme Court, but then they came off of it, and they were great friends. I think after, when she heard of his death, you could think there were photos of her crying in there, and I think that we can talk about politics and discuss politics and argue and disagree in many different ways, but you have to, respect the individual behind that. You always be nice and kind and offer an open debate first.
Because I love that sentiment, I really do, and I'm always for this idea of though someone's different, because I treat it like someone just supports a different football team, but it's just not like that when it comes to this level. It hasn't become like that. I'm friends with loads of Tories. I'm friends with people who disagree with me because I can still see that belief, but this belief is so polarizing, so for me in my idea damaging, that I had to admit I struggle. I can't socially become friends with someone who supports this segregation of people. I can't do it, and maybe that's something for me to look inside more for. But honestly, it's too upsetting to even do.
And I think on that note, I'm afraid we're going to have to finish up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Should we attempt a closing show pun?
If you can link King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, because that's just this. I don't know what the song is, but it's an awesome band name.
Hey, wait, is that that's the artist?
Yeah, I know, but Sleep Drifter.
Sleep Drifter. Oh, hey man. Ooh, don't you love drag racing when you go after you go to bed?
Yeah.
Makes you
Oh,
no, I'm sorry. I can't.